Okay, after a couple months of waiting, we're about to get the Rhino-Rack platform on top of my truck. I've had the rack assembled for at least a couple of months, and the backbone system, which is these guys right here, that's been waiting to go on, and I've been pretty apprehensive about it because I got to drill 12 holes. So the backbone system comes with these two supports here, and unlike the roof rack that's made out of aluminum and some small pieces of plastic, that's actually made out of steel. And these weigh in at about 5.8 pounds a piece, which when you add the weight of the platform, which is 51.4 pounds, it totals 63 pounds exactly, which is precisely what the estimation is here in the paperwork. So essentially what happens is you got to take the 63 pounds of the whole system weight, and then you subtract it from each one of these ratings here, and there's a list that goes about, for example, static allowance. If I'm parked at a campsite, the roof will support up to 730 pounds, but you know, if you subtract the 63 pounds for the actual weight of the rack system, then that brings that number down to 667 pounds. The off-road cargo allowance, that's basically the amount of weight I could have up there while I'm, you know, hitting ruts and just, you know, going off-road. That's rated at 113 pounds, but when we subtract 63 from the rack, that's 50 pounds is all I can have up top safely, you know. And I guess the same thing with on-road cargo allowance. I guess this is in transit. 157 pounds is what they recommend, minus 63 brings it down to about 94 pounds. So I could throw 94 pounds of stuff onto the platform and hit the road. But if I'm off-road, that drops down to about 50 pounds. And I suppose that has a lot to do with, you know, just how well these things will hold. So that's another reason why I've decided to go for, you know, using the plus nut, because it's just a much larger contact surface, and I believe these guys will just do better for me in the long run. They've given me 12 of these bolts to kind of fasten the feet of this, so there's about 6 required per support, and there's these holes here that each one goes into, and there's 12 of these total. Now, these guys are supposed to function with these black Rivnuts here that came with the kit. These are aluminum, and although I don't have too much of a problem with aluminum Rivnuts, let alone steel Rivnuts or stainless steel, I'm not really a big fan of the minimal contact surface that they produce when they're installed. And especially since this thing's going to be dealing with not just, you know, whatever's on top while I'm on the highway, but if I'm off-road and, you know, you got these lateral shearing forces, it could just work one of these out or a bunch of them. You know, I've already been on a couple of forums and heard about people, you know, having their entire Rhino-Rack just rip off the roof because they, you know, kind of hit a rut in the road or something the wrong way. I'm almost sure they probably had a generous amount of weight up there too. But I wanted to go a little bit stronger with a better contact surface, and that's why I vouched for these plus nuts here. Now, these two guys basically do the same job, except this guy has a much larger contact surface when it's compressed and put in place than this guy does. But for, you know, as far as what they do, I'm really more interested in just how well they'll anchor themselves and keep everything, you know, stable. Got to have backup bits, so I have backups for the pilot, 1/8 inch, and I've got backups for the primary drill hole, 3/8 of an inch, and then I got these drill stops here. I'm going to be using these to prevent these guys from getting a little too crazy. I don't want to be puncturing headliner or, you know, damaging any wires that may be hiding underneath. So the first set of the instructions basically, you know, tells you, it says here, start at the front of the vehicle, remove the ditch mold from the vehicle. There's that black trim that runs on the roof from front to back on both sides. So that guy's supposed to come off in total, but I think I'm going to do my best to just try and cut sections off that are equal to, you know, each of these feet here, which is looking like, let me see, about 3.5 inches maybe. No, about 3 inches. So I'm going to cut 3-inch sections off and just go about it that way, because why not? You know, I don't know. I don't have a real reason for it. I don't feel like ripping the whole thing off. So if I could just do it in sections just to accommodate the feet of these supports here, then I'm happy with that. So without any more hesitations, I guess we better get to it. See you guys out there. Okay, so first thing we want to do is get up on the roof and give it a little wipe down. It's nothing better than working on a clean surface. Like I said before, I'm gonna just take small 3-inch sections so that the feet go in there. That way I don't have to remove the whole strip here. So I've got a bunch of these nylon scrape tools, pry tools. These things are really cool, except the only issue I have with these is that they tend to get chewed up really bad on the ends. And so if you're going to be working on, especially like around the paint job, it's always a good idea to just get a fresh set. So I got some new ones here, compliments of my mom. Thanks, Mom, love you. And these guys are what I'm going to be using for the project today. And these have some nice fresh blades on them. They're not frayed or scraped up or anything. And that's what I'll be using to get into the ditch mold there. Okay, so the badge for Rhino-Rack is the part that goes facing the forward or front of the cab. So it's going to basically sit like this, and we're going to go measure 7 7/8 from the back of the first foot to center of the B pillar. And what you see here is that's the center that we're going to measure 7 7/8 from, or 2. And this guy is going to sit right on here. So let's see if we can get that 7 7/8 from this foot to the B pillar, or center of the B pillar. Anyhow, you know what will make this easier is a little piece of tape. This B pillar, center of the B pillar, right about there. I'm going to go ahead and leave that right there. Okay, so now when we set it up, it should be a little easier to measure. 7 7/8, all right. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set up another one of these guys. 7 7/8. And we'll come back and double check it with the actual hardware. That should give us a little bit of an easier idea. Okay, let's see here. Let's see how close we got. Okay, so that gets a little close to the road shower. I think I want to move that thing back because there's no way my platform's going to clear that. That's about what we're looking at. 7 7/8. Looks good enough for me. So I think I'm gonna go with this. Let's get that again. Just double checking, triple checking. Should really be using a flat ruler for this one. I think that's right. I think that looks okay to me. 7 7/8 right there. Right to the edge, 7 7/8. Okay. So now, I'm going to go ahead and mark where I'm going to be cutting. I'm gonna mark right here. I'll mark another one right here, make sure I don't get the paint job. Mark right about there. And right here. And this guy. That should be all I need. Yep. Everything's marked. Perfect. All right, so now I'm gonna get the nylon tools and a blade and carefully slice these, what should be 3-inch sections out so I can get the feet in there. But first we're gonna be very careful with this. Okay, take that tape off. So right here I marked it with the permanent marker. Okay. I'll give this a little slice right here. And be very careful. Don't scratch up your paint. So I'm not sure, I know some vehicles have a wire mesh or some kind of a metal support that runs down the center of these things. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but if so, I'm gonna go at it with some wire cutters. So far it's a pretty easy cut. Just kind of use the tool to kind of lift a little bit. Just kind of separate it from the body there. Just get a nice steady cut. And I'm holding it like a pencil because it gives me a little more stability and accuracy in how I'm cutting this thing. Kind of get in under there. It does feel like it's a double-sided tape. In fact, what I'm going to do is put this right behind so that I don't slice into the metal, and just use that, oops, as a backing. There we go, just like that. Same thing from the other side. Let's get this guy in there. Just got to get up under it, just like that. Yeah, I don't think there's any metal in this one, so it should be a pretty easy cut. There we go. Nice. There we go. Just kind of wedge it in there like that. Okay. Same thing. Use the plastic nylon as a backing so we don't really gouge the paint behind. There we go. Let's get that other piece. It's nice and easy. Just take your time. There we go. I think we got this one. Boom. Oh, look at that. There is a very, very thin, like a 1/2 inch wide by like maybe 1/2 millimeter thick piece of metal in there, and apparently it was no problem for the razor blade. Okay, before I continue cutting the other sections, I just want to make sure that this actually sits in there. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. Okay, so I'll get the other sections cut. Once I'm done with that, it's time to start marking and tapping the holes. So while I was getting rid of this sticky adhesive here, I thought this was some stubborn glue, but it turns out there's actually a chip in the paint. But I didn't do that. I cut here. This looks like just some piece that flaked off during assembly, production, whatever. There's another one here, which is really odd. Either I'll use some touch-up paint or I'll probably just put some sealant on there because I'm going to be putting silicone all over this thing anyways. But starting to see these little depressions here where there's probably like a contact weld right about there. So hopefully it doesn't get in the way of the drilling, because the last thing I need is for the drill bit to drift, and then we've got problems. So this one has a tube, but it's like right in the middle, and that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, this guy might be a bit of a challenge. I guess we'll see what happens when we get there. All right, let's see. Do the cuts match the feet? All right. Put the back one first. That sits fine. So does this. Oh man, that's just awesome. I dig it. Yep, perfectly lined up. Okay. So I'll continue cleaning this up, and then I want to mark the holes. All right, so I got as much off as I could with just water. I'm going to use a little bit of Goo Gone and see if I can take care of the rest. Try not to get it too close to the rubber, because you're not supposed to put this stuff near rubber. So I'll just give it a tiny little squirt. Just kind of smear it. Oh yeah, stuff works like a champ. That was fast. Okay. Just a little bit of that to the rest of it, and I think we're good. Whoops. Don't get in there. Yeah, that stuff works pretty damn good. Okay. Let's see, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. Okay, so I've got the support up here. I'm trying to make some nice solid marks here. I've got tiny little dots started right there. And just kind of lift this guy away. Just make a little line. And then this guy, make sure they line up. We'll put it back. So yeah, we got them about centered there. So the thing about the way these slots work is there's adjustments to go left and right. So if your holes are not lined up this way or that way, it doesn't matter. What matters the most is if they're lined up this way. If they don't line up this way, you're gonna have some serious trouble trying to get this thing to bolt on correctly. So just keep that in mind. Make sure the front to back alignment is dead on. It doesn't matter, more or less. You know, you can deviate about 1/4 inch in either direction, left or right. Got the front ones marked already. That gives me about where it is in the center. Same thing with these guys. And I'll mark these ones back here. That's pretty damn dead center. Cool. Okay, so I know I said it doesn't matter left to right. What matters is front to back, but I just realized that the provided hardware, these Rivnuts here, they don't have as big a flange as these new Plusnuts that I'm going to be using. So these could actually get closer to this edge here. However, these guys, because of that, kind of forces them to be a little more centered, which is fine really, but I just want to double check and make sure that the foot of the support can still mount correctly to that. So yeah, that's the only issue that I see. If this becomes a problem, well, I'm gonna have to go with the hardware. I really don't want to, but we'll see what happens. Considering the placement of these Plusnuts, because they have a larger flange, I drew an outline here just to kind of see more or less where they have to sit. And what that does is that brings the original cross point from up there to more in the middle of this channel. And that's fine, because I already put the support up here to make sure that the bolts will align, and it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm gonna take a center punch. I'm gonna drill one. I'm gonna do just one. I'll put a Plusnut in there and see if I can get the bolt to line up. It should, but I want to make sure I test it first before I drill 6 of them and find out that everything's off. So yeah, this handy little tool I got for like $4 at Harbor Freight. This is an automatic center punch, and it's spring loaded. So what you do is you put it in the point of interest and you press down really hard until it fires a mechanism inside and puts a little dimple in the surface that you plan on drilling. That's what I'm going to be using right now. I'm going to mark here right about there. So just lean into it. Boom. Should give us a nice little indentation there. One more time. Doesn't seem to be working so well. Okay, since apparently the tip of this thing is dulled out, brought in some reinforcements. These are not automatic, but they'll get the job done. We can find a small punch here. Maybe this little guy. I'm just gonna get it right on there. Give it a little tap. Okay. This should be a good enough spot to start. I'll do the next one. Go easy. This is the kind of thing you just want to take your time. No sense in rushing, especially with this. Okay, so I've got a 1/8 inch drill bit with a drill stop, roughly around 5 millimeters backed off, or 3/16. Same thing with this guy. This is the 3/8. This is supposed to be the final size. Same drill stop type, about 5. Well, it's a little over 5 on that one, but as long as I go slow, it should be all right. The whole thing is just don't, force it in there. Okay, so we're gonna hit that spot right there. We're gonna give it a nice, easy, slow. Got it to setting 1. I'm just gonna go real slow. So when we start light and slow, once you feel like it's kind of seating itself in the right place, then feel free to add a little more pressure. There we go. I think we got through. I've moved up to the 3/8 bit, and just like before, I'm gonna go real nice and easy. Make sure we see where the hole's at. Place it right dead center. You have to go real slow. We'll give it a chance to just kind of dig in. See, it wants to drift, but we won't let it because we're going so slow that we make sure it stays centered. Let's check it out. Yep, there it is. We got the first hole in. Then we get a vacuum to kind of suck all this stuff up. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Beautiful, look at that. That's fantastic. Okay, now I'm gonna put the support back on here, stick the bolt and make sure it lines up. It looks like it is lined up damn good. That makes me happy. That's basically as centered as you can get. That bolt's gonna have no problem getting in there. Well, I don't drop and lose them all first. But yeah, that's perfect. Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the second one. In fact, that's gonna be my process. I'm gonna go one at a time to make sure each one lines up with the next. Okay, so off camera, I got the second hole drill. It was the same process. Only problem is you gotta really be careful with these bits, because look at this. It literally slipped back this far while I was drilling in. I was pretty convinced that the upholstery got pierced, but I went inside and checked already. No such thing. Everything's fine. I guess because it went at an angle. And the only downside is it kind of lifted up the the metal right here. That's no biggie. just gonna put this guy here and just kind of give it a couple of whacks with the ball peen. So then I get it to sit back where it was. Okay, so I tried whacking the surface here with the little rag and this hammer, but it wasn't very effective. So I used this 5/16 flat tipped center punch, and I just kind of like focused on the areas that needed to be hit in that way instead of hitting such a large surface area and possibly doing more damage. So everything's nice and flush. You gotta make sure you have it as even as possible. I'm probably gonna take care of this guy because I didn't really do much to that one. But the more even the surface, the better the seal you're gonna get. And that's just to prevent any leaks. We just finished the fourth one. We've got these two guys already finished. They're looking pretty good. And I got the fourth hole drill, and then I got curious to see just how far this hole goes before it hits anything. I think there's metal at the bottom there. So it's just as I suspected. I believe there's an actual hollow channel that runs the whole length here. The amount that this will go in before it actually hits anything is roughly 2 inches. So I know Rhino-Rack's playing it on the safe side when they said about 5 millimeters for the drill stop, but that probably explains why my drill wanted to go this way, because it kind of seems to want to slide in this way here. I can feel there might be some wires in there, but they're kind of more over here. So this is actually kind of cool to know. We're looking at about 2-inch minimum in there, and yeah, pretty cool. My big concern with these plus nuts was that they're pre-bulbed so that they crimp properly, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have to hammer really hard to get them in there, because that's the 3/8 inch. Falls in to about that point, but really, a couple little baby taps, boom, done. It's in. So yeah, guess I'm not too worried about that anymore. Let's see this guy. Should you see it right there? And yeah, looks like it's dead center. Perfect. One last one left for this end, and then I can get ready to start putting the silicone in. All right, we're down to the 6th and final hole on this side. Everything seems to be lining up pretty well. The only thing I'll have to say is that when I get started on the passenger side, I'm going to be using fresh drill bits. I'm actually surprised these performed as well as they did. Then again, the pilot hole that I drilled out was with a bit that's cobalt. So it's actually way better to drill metal with than your standard drill bit, which is what the 3/8 was. I didn't feel it was appropriate to use the cobalt 3/8 because, you know, the hole's already started, so I don't really need that. I just let this guy munch down until it gave me the hole I needed. There it is. Okay, so watch out for those slivers, man. I got one in my hand earlier and that sucked. Okay, let's get the vacuum started. Take this guy out. Man, it was hot today. I had to do this in small bits because it was about 92. I was boiling out here earlier. It's almost 6 o'clock now. It feels a lot better. Almost there. Good Lord, this is kicking my ass. That's it. Nice. There you go. We put this guy in here. Look at that, didn't even have to hammer it in. Now let's see where things ended up. All right, lining that up. This, boom. It's like a machine did it. That's so freaking rad. Everything's beautifully centered here. Yep. I think we're good to go on the driver's side. I just got to get the silicone and get everything all set up. All right, so we've gotten to the point where I'm going to start laying down some silicone. I'm going to be using the Lexel to kind of seal the plus nuts when I get them seated. And then I'm going to be crimping them with this plus nut tool, Rivnut tool, whatever you want to call it. And hopefully they get in there without becoming spinners. Usually that happens when they don't crimp down or seat correctly. So one thing I really highly advise before you put these guys in is to make sure that the threads inside of these are okay, because there's always, manufacturing slop, and that could really undermine everything that you're trying to accomplish here. Just a little bit of investment of time to make sure the threads are smooth, and that'll ensure that you're not just randomly picking out a plus nut that might have a damaged thread or some cross threads inside of it. And this will actually save you a lot of time, as opposed to not checking, putting one that's bad in there and then having to like tap it to rethread it. Or if it's like really damaged, then you're gonna have to endure the headache of trying to get it out of there. Okay, so I've got the first plus nut seated, ready to be crimped here. But before I do that, I'm gonna hit the hole with a little bit of silicone here. Make sure we get all of that in there. Nice, and just kind of jam them in there. There we go. Let's see if I can get it to go in a little bit more. There we go. You can feel it when it doesn't want to go anymore, so don't force it. Once it's in there, you're pretty much good to go. Okay, so that's that. We got the first one in there. Let's move along to the next ones here. Let's see. Yeah, the ones in my pocket have been tested for threads, for good threads, that is. So that one looks good. Let me go ahead and use this one next. Just give it a little extra bit of crimp, not too much, just enough. Now that I'm done with this side, I'm going to move on and repeat all of this on the passenger side. But for now, I've got all 6 plus nuts in, no spinners, plenty of silicone, and I'm hoping these plus nuts serve me well for the years to come. Cool. So the last step is just getting the hardware sorted out. I'm ready to put the backbone on, but I was wondering if I should put Loctite on these or not, and then I realized if I put Loctite, it's going to really test the strength of those plus nuts as far as how they're gripped. Maybe a little anti-seize would probably be the better option. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on these, so that way when I remove them, they're not testing the strength of the plus nuts, because that would suck if I turned one of them into a spinner on accident. So I decided to use these beetle mastic patches that Rhino-Rack provides. I've already got the silicone, so I laid these on top of each one of the plus nuts along the whole length, and I'm going to do the same to the other side. And there it is. I got both of them on. And that passenger side was a bit of a challenge. There were some issues with the holes not lining up properly, but it was marginal. It was literally just by like millimeters. I'm just really happy with how sturdy it came out. It's pretty solid. So now I just got to get the platform up there, and we'll be ready to hit the road again.